Welcome to Reframe and Reclaim. We are Courtney Huckabee, a psychotherapist,
and Jen Harris, an interior designer,
who have teamed up to reflect,
challenge,
and reframe your mindset in relationship with your personal belongings. Find the reframe.
Start your reclaim.
Welcome to another episode of Reframe and Reclaim. I'm Jen Harris.
And I'm Courtney Huckabee.
And today it's May 21st. We're coming up on Memorial Day this upcoming weekend. And today we really want to take the time to talk about how we memorialize, those who have passed on and our loved ones. What items do we keep that we hold on to that were theirs, or how we remember them, and then how we can work through some of those roadblocks and emotional blocks, really more than roadblocks, that can kind of keep us stuck holding on to something that's not necessarily serving us right now. So I wanted to start out, Courtney, by asking, how do you remember a loved one that has passed on?
Well, me personally, we've talked about this before. I am not a hugely hold on to things sentimental person.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I have a very few things of a couple of people who I love who are no longer with me physically. So for my father, I have some of his shirts that he wore. So I have about 3 or 4 of those shirts. I have my father's guitar that I keep. He loved playing the guitar. I love that. And then for my grandmother, I do have lots of photos. Photos is one thing that, I can look through and just remember all of the moments we had together. But I have one wooden carved pelican to remind me of her. She loved pelicans. I am deathly afraid of pelicans. However, to honor my grandmother, I have a one wooden statue pelican, probably about this big, that I have just to remember her. And it's in my living area, so I see it every single day. But what about for you? How do you remember and memorialize people that you love?
So for my dad, we always go to a steakhouse or a restaurant that he really enjoyed on the day of his birthday. Usually on the day of his passing as well, but we want to focus less on the death and the negativity of it, and more on just the positive memories. But we usually do a nice dinner somewhere, and then I have several of his items, but one of my favorites is his Claiborne for Men, cologne.
Oh, a smell.
Yes, so the smell of the cologne he used to wear. So a lot of his shirts, none of the smells are still there, but every once in a while I'll just pick it up and smell it just to jog some memories. So yeah,
smell is the most directly linked to memory. It can pull up memory so much quicker than even sight or sound can. But music and sounds are very much easily can bring up those memories too. So I'm glad you have that.
Why we can remember random lyrics from 20 years ago.
Right? Why is a
Some
song
jingle
stuck in my head? And then I'm remembering back in 8th grade, and I'm like, whoa, that one took me afar. But and I love how you have an event or something you do with other loved ones to remember your father.
Yes.
I think that's really wonderful. And I think that's really great for us to continue to share about our loved ones too. So my son is named in part after my grandmother. Her maiden name is his first name. And I get to tell him about her and who she was, and share about my memories with her and why she was such an amazing person and how he's like her. And so he actually has a relationship with her, even though he's never met her. And then we always talk about grandpa in heaven too. And so we just had my brother's birthday with a slideshow as well. It was his 50th birthday. So there's a lot of, memories down memory lane. And as we're going through the slideshow, there's pictures of me and my father growing up. And he's like, who's that? I was like, oh, that's Grandpa here. He's like, oh, the one who plays the guitar. And so he even has stories about him, and so it's really wonderful to share your own personal memories for you to help connect with loved ones, those who remember your loved one or maybe who never got to meet them.
It surprises me too, my sons, because they never met their grandfather, what they remember, and you tell them a story and they do latch onto it and they're like, oh, and anytime something reminds them of the story, they'll bring it up.
Yeah. And I will say I love the idea of also on we call it the death anniversary or the birthday. I do celebrate a lot of my father's death anniversary because it's very closely around a memorable part of my life and things that
Mm.
were going on. So it's very easy to remember that day, but I like to remember it in a positive light too. And
Yeah.
so doing things like getting yellow roses, that was one of his favorite
Aw.
flower, or, eating a favorite food that he liked, or, getting together with my sister and family just to share about, our memories and celebrating him. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know, like in the early years, like on the death anniversary, I would always start getting really worked up, and I would start having a lot of anxiety about the day coming up. And it was always like, so he died October 2nd, but always like the last week of September would I'd have so much anxiety, and I'd
Mhm.
be crying a lot and
Yeah.
just having a lot of
Yeah.
grief. That usually by the time the day got there, I had already grieved so much the week before that it was an
Yeah.
easier day than I was, building it up and expecting it to be. So, and that lasted for several years. But yeah,
Yeah, and it still happens for me
yeah.
sometimes. Every year is very different, especially when it comes to grief and
Hmm.
bereavement. It's a lifelong thing. It's not just like, after 5 years you're good, or,
Right.
after a year you're fine. It's been many, many years since my father's passed away, over 20 years. I can't believe he's been gone for over 20 years. Your father,
It's
even
30 years.
30
Yeah.
years ago. So every year is a little different. And there are some years that are a little more emotional, and some years you're just like, oh, wow, I'm so glad we're thinking of, my loved one. And
Right.
so I know my grandmother's death anniversary is the same day as my nephew's birthday.
Oh,
And so
wow.
that's a little bit challenging for me sometimes, because I'm
Yeah.
like, want to celebrate my nephew, but I also want to like honor my grandmother. And I think he has a lot of emotion and challenges with celebrating his birthday now as
Yeah.
well. But we all try to, you know, do our best and be sensitive and compassionate
Yes.
with ourselves and everyone involved, and know that every year is just going to be a little different.
Yes. I
Yeah.
think it's very important to remind people that, like you said, you don't just get over it. Grief isn't a linear line where you just
No.
keep building up. You can go back and feel like it's day one or square one, and
Yeah. Reliving
20
all of
years.
those things.
Yep, 20
Yeah.
years later, you can have that happen. So again,
Yeah.
like you said, just be kind and gentle with yourself.
Yes, and others who are,
Yes.
just because I'm excited and happy to celebrate my father's birthday, and that doesn't mean my loved ones are in that same place.
Yeah.
So being gentle with each other too.
And unlike Courtney, if you read the book, you'll know I'm a very sentimental person. And, one of the things we kind of were talking about before the book was even written is how generationally,
Yes.
thought patterns have been passed down to me. And so I had several deaths when I was younger. Both my grandfathers died when I was 9. My dad died when I was 15. Both my grandmothers and uncle died when I was 25. So it's like, and all those times it was like, what do you want to remember them by? What item do you want? And so I got this very early on, was taught like, oh, this item signifies a memory and signifies this person, and this is how I remember them.
Mm-hmm.
So you can imagine when my dad died, I collected a whole lot of stuff.
Sure.
And like,
Sure.
even with when my grandfather passed, one of them, like, it was like, pick out what you want to remember him by, and he collected so much random stuff. We talked about the Avon bottles before, but he loved a good church bazaar. I mean, grab random knickknacks, thinking they would be the next big collector's item and
Yes.
make lots of money. But so I got like this dachshund, this ceramic dachshund. My grandfather never owned a dachshund, let alone a dog that I know of. Like, he's not German. Like, there's nothing that ties a dachshund to him
Yep.
whatsoever.
Yep.
But I decided this was the item that
This is what
I
you
would
need to
remember
do.
him by, right? And so I carried this dachshund around for years and years and years. And it's like, why is this the item that I'm keeping to remember him by? And, once I really like got settled with my emotions and my thought process and was really honest with myself, it was, I don't need this item to remember him by.
Right.
I do have other items I kept, like, one year for Christmas, he gave me this dollhouse that he refurbished and like put down carpet and like used drinking straws as like a wainscoting in the kitchen as like a wallpaper, and made little hooks so I can switch out light fixtures and art pieces. So it's very very crafted and very customizable, and really spurred my love for like interior design. So like I have that to remember him by,
Mhm.
and that means a lot more to me than this
Yeah.
random dog ceramics. So
Yeah.
I was able to work through and like let that go. So
And I will say for me, my dad, he was a nomad of sorts and his latter part of his life, and so he didn't have a lot of things, and
Mm,
so there wasn't really a choice for me to like keep things or not keep things. There just wasn't a lot to choose from, which
gotcha.
helped, I think, a lot with it helped me not to feel like I had to like keep all of his stuff because there wasn't a whole lot except for like
Mm,
paperwork and documents. Um, but for me to memorialize him, one year he chose to be a master sailman, and so he went and got his sailing license. I chose to
so
go to
cool.
sailing school one year when I went to Florida to visit my grandmother, and I was like, I'm going to go to sailing school while I'm here. And I spent a few days learning how to, sail a little tiny little sailboat, and it was kind of fun. Like I felt more connected to him with that, and
Mm,
so I think that there are many ways to memorialize somebody. Like a favorite recipe.
yeah.
Like my mom is such an amazing cook, and she really honors my great grandmother with her recipes and cooks those recipes and shares those things. I do the same thing for my little boy, like my granny. I call her my great grandma. My granny, that's who she is. She made these crispy pancakes, and so she'd like fry them in
Ooh.
oleo. So if you don't know, it's like the Crisco, the
Okay.
oleo. So you got a really unhealthy pancake, but it was delicious. So
Because it was made with love.
it
That's
was,
what
but I don't do that. I do butter, and it still makes it a little crisp. And
Mm,
I talked to my little boy. Like my granny made these pancakes when I was your age, and she taught me how to flip the pancake, and he's learning how to flip the
that's so
pancake. And
cute.
I use even like the same pancake brand she used, and so I think
Aw.
there's a lot of experiences you can do and shared, like continuing to honor and remember somebody
Yes.
that is not just like a thing on a shelf,
Yes.
even though those are wonderful too. Yeah.
And one thing you'll see in our book, second copy
Yes.
of Reframe and Reclaim. So the way the book is written is by the excuses we tell ourselves. So like it's sentimental is one of the chapters. It's one I struggled with a lot. But we have, lots of reframing questions to kind of help people work through giving themselves the grace to let go of items.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times, I know I've experienced after grief, it's like especially with my dad being, when I was, especially with my dad dying when I was 15, I felt this need to hold on to everything. Because even I felt like when I was 20, I was starting to lose memories of him. And so I just trying like to like grasp at anything I could to remember him, right? Because I was like, how am I going to tell my kids if I ever have kids what he was like, and
Sure.
how am I going to remember him? So I had a lot to work through, a lot of, a lot of things. But some of the questions we worked through and asked ourselves as we were putting this book together was, if this object were not in my possession, would I still remember the memories of this time, person, or place? Right. So we kind of talked about like this dachshund wasn't reminiscent of him at all. I had other items that either
Mm-hmm.
reminded me of him or places or experiences. So I didn't need it
Mm-hmm.
anymore. If it's not in your possession, would you remember the memories? And how would I honor and recall the important moments or people associated with this item if this item were not in my possession? I thought that was a big one too. Again, it's just
Yeah.
triggering those thoughts of like, how can I reframe this and how can I look at this item differently? And do I need the item?
Because I think a lot of people say, like, if I don't see this thing, I won't remember this moment or remember this
Yeah,
person. And it's, it might jog a memory seeing it more, but it doesn't mean you will forget that person if
right.
that one thing isn't in your home.
Another big one is, if, is this object something I hold sentimental value in, or does this object hold more sentimental value to someone else?
Yeah.
And is someone telling me like, you need to keep this because this belonged to so and so that's why this item is important. And so in that case, why do you feel obligated to keep this item? And is this felt obligation something you would expect of someone else? So
Right.
that really helped me by putting myself in someone else's shoes, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
if I passed away or if I gave this to someone and I knew that they didn't really want it and they were like, well, should I get rid of it? And it's just taking up space. Like, I wouldn't want them to feel bad about it. Like,
Yeah.
it's just an item, right? It's just a thing.
It's not me.
Yes.
It's something that I had in my possession,
Yes.
but that you don't have to hold it in your possession to be connected to me.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it is one of those things that's that reframe. And so,
Mm-hmm.
we want to ask ourselves, take perspective. Am I expecting other people to do this, what I'm doing? It's kind of like what I treat others how I want to be treated. And I think that's the golden rule, the platinum rule. When I say, of course, I wouldn't want you to keep that, slinky that I played with when I was 5, because it doesn't always represent the whole part of who I am.
Right.
Yeah.
Another question that helped me was, can anyone else find value or purpose in this item besides me?
Mm-hmm.
And if so, could this object be more useful for someone else in their possession? Or will this item be used in the amount of time while it's still usable,
Mm-hmm.
or will the quality fade away because it's been stored in my garage, So
My dad had, I don't even know what it's called, but he had this box that allowed him to navigate the ocean by looking at the stars. So whatever that's called, he had it. And I was like, this is so really cool. I'm landlocked. I don't live near an ocean. I live near kind of a lake kind of thing. But we actually chose to donate that to the sailing school that I went to actually later,
cool.
for them
Cool.
to teach other people who wanted to learn how to sail with this device, with this tool. And they were so thankful for it, and it got to be used, and
yeah.
other people got to learn how to sail with that. So I
And
felt
that's so
very
cool,
honoring.
yeah, it's so cool because you are honoring him by passing on his passion of sailing to others.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to use the same object that he used to learn. It's really cool.
And I don't know where he got it either. He could have gotten it from someone else who learned how to sail, or so it's kind of neat to like let it be used and honor somebody.
And that's another question. How would I feel knowing this object would be used more often than I am currently using it? Mm-hmm. And would that make a difference in me feeling okay with letting it go if someone else is able to use it and appreciate it now?
Right.
And then the other big thing, like I said earlier, about if it's being stored in my garage, and it's not maintaining its integrity because the heat and the temperature changes and all that. How much sentimental value, you have to be really honest with yourself. How much sentimental value does this object really hold if I do not choose to display this item in my home, or if I'm not storing it in a way that's being preserved? So if I really value this item, like I say I do, how am I ensuring that value is kept?
Yeah. And some people say, well, I put it in a cardboard box and then I forget about it, but I unpack that box later and I don't want to get rid of it. Well, is that cardboard box in the non-temperature controlled garage going to preserve that item, or do I need to find another way to store it inside or in a different kind of container so that it doesn't deteriorate and lose its value?
Or if it's an item that does mean a lot and you look at it and you're like, oh, this sparked such a great memory. Like, is it better to display it somewhere in your home where every time you walk by, you're like, oh, it just makes me feel good when I see that item? And the flip can also be said, where if there's an item that you're holding on to that doesn't feel so good, why is that staying in your home? So I give an example in the book where I had this little green bear that my dad had won for me at Six Flags years and years ago. And I had this, I didn't play with it much, but it was this cute little green bear. And then the day after he died, I ended up going to school because I just needed some normalcy. Everything was kind of blowing up at home. And I decided to take this bear with me because I wanted to have something of his with me that day. And so I took this little green bear to school. And long story short, someone else took it at school, threw it, and like there was this whole thing. And then it just opened up the grief door for me, and it just all coming out as far as what I'd gone through in the last 24 hours. And so this bear, it was complex because this bear had positive memories for me when it was one, but then it had negative memories for me for the day after he died because he'd opened it up and it's like, oh, he's dead. My life's never going to be the same. And so I held on to it for 20 years plus, and I would look at it and it was kind of like this feeling, but it was like, but he won it for me, so I feel obligated to keep it. And letting go of it was really refreshing and very weightlifting because I had other items that gave me only positive memories, right? And so I don't have to keep those items that had mixed emotions or negative feelings, even though it had a little bit of positivity. The negative definitely
brought back that day.
Yeah, it brought back that day.
More than anything.
Yes. Yeah. So But again, having to take the time to work through that and reframe what this item really meant to me and really felt for me, was how I was able to let it go. So
Yeah.
Courtney helped me with that.
And I will say, in our book, we are very much of you make those decisions.
Yes.
Don't feel obligated by the book to let go of things or to discard things and not keep things, but making sure you're really honest with yourself. What is this doing for me? Is it helping me cope? Is it helping me remember this person? Is it feeling overwhelming? Is it feeling heavy? Is it feeling obligation? Is it feeling resentment? And really checking in with yourself of what you need to do with that item and how you want to make sense of those memories.
And I think it's okay not to know, especially if it's, soon after a death or, even a few years, you're still working through a lot. And so I do think it's okay to put it away or put it somewhere and store it for a while where the integrity will be kept, where it's not just going to fall apart. But give yourself some time, but be sure you're coming back to it and checking in and saying, do I want this? Now, it might still be, I don't know, but maybe next time you'll be like, you know what? I'm still not sure, but I'm going to check this again in 6 months. I'm going to check this again in 3 months. And then I'll have a better mindset to be able to make the decision because I will have seen that item multiple times and know it's not being used. I'm going to know I'm not going to display it. And so could someone else use it and find value in it?
Yeah. And again, this is your process, your timeline, your life, and your home. And so we want to make sure that you are learning how to honor yourself as you're honoring and memorializing your loved ones. And it's really important that we don't put our lives on pause or hold or stay stuck in our past, but continue to also live today and for our future. And there are lots of ways to include people from our past that are no longer here with us physically to have a continued life and to continue to remember them like we've talked about today.
Yes. And another thing that's really helpful too for some people is to get like a bin and have a physical boundary, right? So it's like, this is the amount of storage space I have to devote to this person or these memories. And so whatever I can fit in here is what I get to keep. And then it's all contained. And then it is like on an anniversary or birthday, you can bring it out easily and go through photos or go through these objects and talk about, what it means to you. So so we hope you have, a lovely Memorial Day weekend and remember those who have passed on and think about how you have, honored them in the past and how you can continue to honor them in the future. And is there an item that's been in your back closet that would really be more valuable to you on a shelf that you can see every day, or is it an item that the person who passed loved, but you're never going to use it? And someone at a sailing school could use it.
Right.
I think it's really cool. And how did you feel after giving it to the sailing school?
Well, I felt really great because it was a local sailing school, local to where my dad lived, and so I knew as part of his community. I knew he had such a big heart for like travel and exploring and those things. And then I was able to actually years later. I was much older after his passing that I decided to go back and go to that sailing school myself. And so
cool. So did you ever have any regrets about letting go of that item?
No, I just don't know what it's called. I need to find out. It's really cool.
It's Dad's navigational box.
It's a navigational tool that looks at the stars. So if you're a sailor or a nautical expert, let me know what that is because I'm kind of curious about it.
Yes. All right. Well, till next time, guys. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.